Chapter 5. The good that is in you. The good that is inherent in everything is infinitely greater, and more powerful than any imperfection or undeveloped condition that may exist in the outer world. And therefore, when this good is recognized, and brought out into real life, that which is not good must disappear. To apply this great truth to yourself, to others, to circumstances, is to place mind and soul in that attitude where conscious contact with the divine perfection in all things will be gained. In consequence, the good that is within will increase, while undesired conditions in the without will decrease. To recognize the greater good that is inherent in all things is to cause that good to become a greater, and greater power in you, until it becomes just as strong in action as it previously was in realization. Live in the conviction that I am greater than all my ills or failures, that I am greater than the limitations of my circumstances, and greater than any condition that I can possibly meet. When you feel that you are greater than your ills, those ills cannot long remain, because what you inwardly feel, you realize, and what you realize, you bring forth into living expression. To open the mind to the great thought that the health that is within you is greater than any disease than you can ever know, is to open your life to the power of that health. And when the greater power of the health that is within you comes forth into the life of every atom in your being, the lesser power of disease, weakness or adverseness must vanish completely. No disease can long remain in your system after you begin to live in the constant conviction that the absolute health that is within you is infinitely greater and more powerful than all the sickness in the world. Nor can failure continue after you begin to realize that you, in the reality of your whole being, have the power to turn the tide of any circumstance that may ever appear in your world. The good that is within you is larger and more powerful than all the troubles, misfortunes or disappointments in existence. And this good, when fully recognized by you, will begin to work for you. It will work for your good, and will turn to good account everything that can happen. When you know that you are greater than any undeveloped condition that may exist in mind or body, you gain the power to transcend limitations. Your consciousness begins to break bounds, and you find yourself in that larger, richer mental world that you so long have desired to reach. You are placed in touch with the universal and begin to draw upon limitless for wisdom and power and joy. You no longer feel cramped, but realize that you are absolutely free to live the largest, the best, and the most beautiful life that you can possibly picture. The ideals that you discover during the highest flights of mind and soul are no longer considered impossibilities. You know that you can realize them all. To you there is no failure because the good that is within you is greater than all failure. You are above limitations. You are master of limitations and have the power to transform every undeveloped condition into the highest form of completeness and superior worth. The lesser is passing away, and the greater is being realized in an ever-increasing measure. The good that is inherent in others is infinitely greater than all their faults, shortcomings or imperfections. Therefore we can readily forgive them for all these. There is more in man than the undeveloped surface, and it is this more that we will recognize, love and admire. When anyone goes wrong we will not criticize or complain. We cannot criticize anyone without harming everybody concerned, ourselves included. Nor can we think well of anyone without helping everybody concerned, ourselves included. And everybody wants the best to happen to everybody. To live in constant recognition of the weaker side of human nature is to open the mind to weakness, discord, failure and unhappiness. We steadily grow into the likeness of that which we think of the most. But to live in constant spiritual touch with the great good that exists in everybody, is to open the mind to strength and happiness that cannot be measured. The most beautiful moments in life are realized when we feel that we are one with God and one with that something in man that is created in the image of. And these moments may become eternal. Whatever we may meet in life, we should always remember that the good within all things is far greater than anything that may appear on the surface. And that this greater good will finally rule the day. When this good is to reign supremely in our world will depend upon us, and us alone. The superior within us is always ready, and will come forth into tangible expression whenever we are ready to receive it. But we are not ready until we give the greater good in all things the first thought, no matter what the circumstances may be. Whatever may come, meet it all with the thought that the good within is greater still. The good that is inherent in all things is always greater and more powerful. The greatest things in the without are insignificant in comparison. Therefore, we can readily understand how easily the circumstances and conditions in the external world could be changed for the better, provided the all-powerful good within us was called forth into tangible action. And now we smooth the pathway of life when we realize that there is a greater good in everything we meet. How kindly we feel towards all persons and all events. Nothing seems adverse anymore, and what we previously looked upon as obstacles are now stepping stones in attainment. By recognizing the greater good in all things, we open our minds to the wisdom and the power that is contained in this greater good. And, in consequence, we are inspired by every circumstance and enriched by every experience. We gain something from everything we pass through, and every event, however adverse, simply tends to arouse more and more of the real greatness within. Even evil, in all of its forms, becomes a lifting power in our world. Because we are in constant touch with the great good that is back of and above all evil. We are not crushed by the ills and the wrongs that may exist about us, but instead we are inspired to greater thoughts, greater deeds and a greater life. All things serve us because we have found that greater good in all things that is ever waiting to serve. We have become friendly with the best that is in the world, and the best is becoming friendly with us in return. The great and good are many, but he who loves with such a love, that with his love some other soul has scaled the heights, and there beheld what life eternal holds in store for man, has wrought the noblest of them all. Then give me such a love in boundless measure. Give me the love of some inspired soul whose living presence, fair and strong, can spur me on, and on to greater heights than human life has ever reached before, some pure and tender heart who knows the sacred longings of that life supreme within that must ascend, and evermore ascend, some fair illumined soul whose spirit dwells within the vision of transcendent realms on high, and knows that I am made for such a place. Then life shall be a life indeed to me. My sacred longings all shall be fulfilled, and every good that I can wish for shall be mine, for all the joys of earth and all of heaven's ecstasies sublime abide forevermore in such a love. Chapter 6. Give your best to the world. We have looked far and wide for remedies, but in search we have overlooked one of the greatest of all. And that is love. Not the love of the person, not mere sentiment or emotion, but that strong, spiritual feeling that makes every atom in your being thrill with the purest sympathy, and the highest kindness, and that makes you feel that every creature in existence deserves your most tender care and attention. When everything goes wrong with us, we blame fate, environment, or the world. We forget that the world does to us what we have done to the world. When we blame the world for everything, the world will so act that it will be to blame. But when we love the entire world with the whole heart, the world will change toward us accordingly and be kind. When you do not succeed, when no one seems to care for your service, or for your talents, there are two things to do: do your best, and love much. Do not condemn the race because it is slow to appreciate your worth. When you do this, you push the world further away from yourself, and its appreciation will decrease instead of increase. Love the world, the whole world, and love with all the power of heart and soul. This will bring the world nearer to you. You will enter into friendly relations with the world. The race will thereby discover what you have to give and will come at once to receive your talent. True achievement in any sphere of action depends upon real ability, and a strong, deep, whole-souled love. Real ability can be cultivated, and we can all learn to love much. Therefore the future of any person may become far greater, and more beautiful than the present. When others speak wrongly against you, do not permit the slightest trace of ill feeling. Anger and indignation not only weaken your own system, but also cause you to attract disagreeable people and adverse conditions. Love those who have mistreated you. Love them with the very deepest power of your soul, and they will soon come to you to make everything right again. Love can change the worst hatred into the deepest love. And what is more, when you love everybody, you attract only the best people and the best conditions. Love much, and lovely souls will daily come into your life. And those people who are not as lovely as they might be, will become better because they have met you and felt the divine fires aflame in your soul. When people are going wrong, just love them. Not with the person, nor in a weak, sentimental sense, but with that strong, soul love that comes from the very heart of the infinite. Such love will lift anybody. And whoever is lifted up into the better becomes better. When we ascend in the scale of life, we enter the truer and the higher. We enter the right and thereby become true and right. When you have reason to think that others are trying to take advantage of you, have no fear. Do not condemn. Do not think of the wrong they are planning to do. Take God with you and love them. Love as you never loved before, and the wrong they are holding against you will change, and become a great power for your good instead. Love can change any condition or circumstance, and every change that comes through love is a change for the better. Love brings us into right relations with all persons and all things. Love removes inharmony, perverted feelings, obstacles, barriers and all kinds of unnatural conditions, and produces that perfect oneness through which the beautiful life can come forth. He who has placed himself in oneness with man can easily find his unity with God. But no one can find God who does not love man. When we love the whole race with the whole heart, then we shall enter the presence of him who is love. It is the truth that he is nearest to God who is nearest to man, and the nearer we are to God, the more life and power we receive from above. In consequence, the more we can accomplish in the world, and the better off will the world be because we are here to live for a while. To be at peace with everything is one of the greatest secrets to greatness, usefulness, and high spiritual attainment. And he alone can find the peace that passeth understanding who loves everybody and loves much. But true spiritual love does not love because it expects to gain thereby. When we love in the spirit of gain, our love is only material emotion, and does not come from the spiritual depths of the soul. Pure soul love loves because it is love, and must love. It loves, because it is its very life to love, and could not cease loving without ceasing to be. And it cannot cease to be, because the love that is love is eternal love. Therefore, to awaken the love of the soul is to place in action one of the highest powers in the universe. A power that can do so much because it is so much. To feel the interior presence of this love, with its high, strong, invincible power, perfectly blended with the sweetest tenderness, not only produces a joy that cannot be measured, but also lifts you into a universe that is fairer by far than we ever imagined heaven to be. And truly it is heaven we enter when we love with such a love, when we love as God loves. Pure love sees no evil, no sin, no wrong. It does not live in the world of illusion or darkness. It is a child of the light and radiates its spiritual glory wherever it may be. Where love is, there will the light be also. And neither darkness, sickness nor sin can exist in the light. There is nothing that will not be blessed by the presence of love. And the soul that loves with the Spirit, that loves much and loves always, will meet the good alone. He has given his best to the world, and the world will open its heart to him and be kind. As the years pass by, the world will lavish upon him the richest treasures within its power to give, and nothing will be too good to place at his door. Blessings of all kinds from every direction will come in greater and greater abundance, and his life will be full with the best that God and man can give, because he has given his best to the world, and loved much. The practical mind may think that this is only sentiment, and therefore has no value, neither for the physical life nor for the spiritual life. But too often the practical mind looks for his treasure in the realm of effect instead of in the realm of cause. In consequence, he finds but little of real value anywhere in life. The great things in life do not come through minds that dwell merely on the surface, that cannot rise above the world of tangible results. Everything that is beautiful and of real worth, whether it appeals to the eye, the ear, the intellect or the soul, has come through the mind that had visions, the mind that could soar to supreme heights, and behold the real splendor and glory of the world. To be practical is well and necessary, but there is something else that comes first. This something else brings forth the substance, the material upon which practical efforts may be applied. Therefore, the practical mind cannot act until the dreamer has had his vision. The higher nature of man must act before the external mind can find anything of value to do. The soul must live and think before the person can attain and achieve, and the greater the love, the greater the life and the thought of the soul. Whatever has added to the welfare of man in any age, has been the product of the mind with the vision. All the good things of life have come from the world of visions and dreams. Someone entered the finer realms of life for a moment and brought back a treasure. The practical mind turned it to use, and the world was richer and better than it was before. This being true, it is the very height of wisdom to train ourselves to enter consciously and frequently into those finer realms, and thus bring forth more of its hidden treasures. It is the best we all seek, and since the best comes from the ideal world, the better we understand the ideal, the richer and greater life will become. To be practical in the largest sense of that term is to so live that we can touch the sublime on the one hand, and turn every ideal into a living reality on the other. The great mind is the dreamer, the prophet, the soul with visions. The mind that can soar to empyrean heights and reveal to the race some higher truth, some better way, and thereby elevate the whole of mankind. This is the mind that brings real values to the world, that makes life worthwhile. And one of his principal secrets is love. When we love in this supreme, spiritual sense, we give a power to our practical efforts that we never gave before. We give life to our work. We do more and better work. Results double and more. We do this through a power that many ignore as mere useless sentiment. And we thus demonstrate that love, the deep, strong, soul love, is as practical as any tangible force in the world. There is nothing to lose but failure, and everything to gain, when we learn to love in this strong, high, universal sense. To begin, love as much as you can. Be directly interested in the highest welfare of everybody. Feel in the depths of the soul that we are all working together for the greatest good to all the race. And make this feeling so strong that it thrills every fiber in your being. But do not love for effect. Love because you feel love, and train yourself to feel love by loving with all the power of love, and in the highest, purest sense you know. He who tries to ascend will go up. He who tries to become strong will enter power. And he who tries to love everybody with the deepest, highest, strongest love of the soul will daily enter more and more deeply into the very spirit of that love that is love. And when you are awakened in the world of true spiritual love, real love takes possession of all your feelings and desires. And all your love will eternally love because it is love. From that moment you will constantly receive love from all the world and constantly give love to all the world. You will gain possession of one of the highest, and one of the greatest powers in the universe, and the infinite will always be with you. God is with every soul that loves much. Because it is love, the deep, pure, spiritual love that gives man the power to know that my Father and I are one. When there is anything you truly wish for, do not stand passively hoping that something may happen to make your wish come true. Go out and make that wish come true. Have the faith that you can. Believe in the power that God has given you and God will give you more. Know that all the good in the universe lies in the path of him who has faith, and who will use the power of faith to make his own faith come true. He who only hopes, will see visions of good things, but will never reach them. But he who transforms his hope into faith and his faith into living works, will reach every lofty goal he has in view. To him nothing shall be impossible, for God is with him. This is the end of chapter 6. Chapter 7. Giving much and receiving much. When you have attained or received something of exceptional worth, give God the glory. Do not praise yourself, or give your own personality the credit. All power comes from above, and the more we appreciate the source of this power, the more we shall receive. The path to perpetual increase is to give God the glory for everything that comes, and when we realize that everything comes from God, everything that comes to us will have exceptional worth. Every moment will be a demonstration of the power of truth. Every experience will be an open door to a larger, more beautiful world, and every person, thing or event that we may meet will add to our welfare and joy. With God all things are possible, and when we give him the glory for everything, we are with him in everything. To live the life of the great eternal now in the consciousness of those spiritual elements in which the real man lives, and moves and has his being, is to enter the new heaven and the new earth. In the Spirit all things are forever new, and the life of the Spirit is perpetual ascension into the newer, the larger, the more beautiful, the more sublime. When life seems barren and useless, we are not in the Spirit, but the moment we enter the Spirit, a million universes are revealed to mind, and the joy of existence becomes supreme. We are not required to search the world of things for happiness, worth, entertainment or events of interest. One moment in the Spirit is far more interesting than a whole life of physical existence, and 1 hour in the cosmic world is 1,000 ages of unbounded bliss. Depend upon the infinite and his power will see you through. We learn that the Lord fought for Israel in ages gone by, and he will do the same now, for he changeth never. The term Israel means one chosen of God, and every person who chooses to go with God will be chosen of God. Go with God, live with God, walk with God, depend upon God in all things, and you will be chosen of God. When you choose God as your leader and your king, he will fight your battles. He will be with you always, and you will never see anything but victory. We fail only when we depend upon ourselves, ignoring the presence and the goodness of the Supreme. We go wrong only when we follow the light of our own darkness, forgetting that the guiding light of the Most High is at hand. This light knows what we ought to do, and when we follow this light we will always do that which is best. The light of the Spirit never leads into sickness, trouble or want. The light of the Spirit invariably leads out of that which is evil, and into that which is good. To go with God is to go into freedom, into happiness, and into everything that can add to the richness and beauty of life. God is rich and can give us everything we may need without depriving anyone of anything. And when God leads us on to victory, no one will lose because we have gained. The best will happen to everybody, and the greatest good will come to all. The gain of one is the gain of the many, providing that gain was secured through higher power. And when the one ascends in the scale, millions will discover the light they so long have desired to see. This is our purpose. To live the purest, the largest, the fairest, the most useful, the most beautiful and the most spiritual life possible, just for today. To be our very best here and now, with no desire to outshine some other being, but simply to be all that we are in divine being now. To fill the present moment with all the spiritual sunshine that we can possibly radiate through the crystal walls of love, peace, faith and joy. And to live so near to the Supreme that we may touch the hem of His garment whenever we so desire. This is life, and he who lives with such a purpose forever in view shall never know an undesired moment. To believe in the Christ is to enter into the Christ consciousness. Not simply to believe something about what He was, but to realize what He is. To feel the sublime life that He felt, and to know that touch of the Spirit that He knew. We believe in the Christ only when we can mentally feel the power of His life in our own divine nature. And we believe in His name, the name that is above all names, when we can inwardly discern the full spiritual significance of that name. Belief in the Christ is not of the letter, but of the Spirit. Not to be definitely expressed in words, but to be inwardly felt in the soul. To ask in the name of the Christ is to enter into the spiritual understanding of that name, into the very soul of the power of that name, and in that sublime state offer our prayer. When we enter into that realization where we know what the name of Christ signifies in the Spirit, we can ask in His name. And what we ask in His name we invariably receive. When we enter into the Spirit of the name of the Christ we are in the supreme power of the Christ. We inwardly know what Christ is and what He can do. And being in His power, we are in that power that can do and will do whatever we wish to have done. We fail to receive only when we are outside of that power that can give. But we invariably enter into the power of the Christ when we inwardly know the spiritual meaning of His name. To end a prayer by simply saying, "We ask it in Christ's name" is not sufficient. We ask in His name only when we can consciously feel that divinity that is defined by the name of the Christ. Words have no power unless they are spoken in the feeling of the Spirit of that truth that the words are intended to convey. We speak to God only when we spiritually discern and inwardly feel what we say, and God answers only those prayers that are spoken to Him. We should never try to eliminate evil. To resist evil, to give thought to evil, or to work against evil, is to give more life and power to the very thing you wish to remove. Overcome evil with good, but do not array the good against the evil, thinking that overcoming implies resistance or warfare. To overcome is to rise out of, forgetting the lesser by giving the whole of life to the greater. The purpose of life is to grow eternally into the greater good. Aim to fulfill this purpose and evil of every description will disappear. There is no wrong in the world that demands our attention. The good alone deserves our attention, and when the good receives all our attention, evil cannot exist anymore. Build for the right. Inspire every soul with an irresistible desire for the right, and everything you do will add to the power that makes for freedom. Think of the good, speak of the good, work for the good, live for the good, and the good only, and your life will be a light wherein darkness can never be. The false prophet always predicts evil, trouble, misfortune and death. He can see only the weak side, the man-made, the coming and going illusions. The true prophet can see that which lies behind the illusion, that which is possible, that which is in store, that which can be done and will be done. He keeps the eye single upon the high state, and thereby ascends into the reality of that vision which previously seemed but a dream. Every person who judges according to appearances is a false prophet. He forms conclusions that are not true to real life, and by following those conclusions causes that which is false and undesirable to come to pass. Every person who judges according to the divinity that is inherent in man is a true prophet. He brings truth into expression and thereby causes that which is true to prevail in tangible existence. The true prophet can see the greatness, the beauty and the perfection of the soul of man, and knowing that the soul is the master, predicts the coming of everything that is in the soul, or that the soul has the power to do. And all such predictions will come true. God is sufficient. When you are in sickness, trouble, sorrow or want, depend upon the Supreme. You need nothing else. Infinite power is greater than all power, and if you have perfect faith, this power will surely set you free, no matter what the condition of bondage may be. The ills of the world continue principally because we think that something else besides the infinite is required. But to depend upon other things besides the one is idol worship. The true worship of God, the highest worship of God, is to live so near to God that we can, at all times, feel that power that can do everything, will do everything, is doing everything. When we worship God, in spirit and in truth, we do not seek help from things. We use things according to their nature, but we seek help from Supreme alone. There is no bondage in living according to the law. In brief, there is freedom only in that life that lives absolutely according to the law. Law is but a path to new realms, fairer than we have ever known before. To follow any law in life is to increase the greatness and the worth of life, and to follow all the laws of life is to grow perpetually into the highest good that body, mind and soul can possibly desire. No one could wish for a greater freedom than this. To use the law is to gain our own. To misuse or ignore the law is to deprive ourselves of our own, and bring disorder, want and pain into life instead. The law never binds nor holds down. The power of all law moves eternally towards the heights, that supreme greatness that is waiting for man. And whoever follows the law will move with that power up unto those same heights. Give God the glory for what you have and you will receive more. Be grateful for the measure that is coming to you, and that measure will increase perpetually. This is the law and it will never fail unless you fail to do to others what God is doing to you. Giving and receiving must be equal in your life. We must give something for everything we receive. Nothing is free. The universe is not built in that manner. But giving does not imply the gift of things. True giving and true beings are one and the same in real life. The act of giving produces just as much joy as the act of receiving, because both add to the richness of existence. When we give much we bring forth much from the depths of divine being, and what we bring forth becomes a permanent part of actual life. When we give much we add to life from the within. When we receive much we add to life from the without. And when the richness of the within is harmoniously blended with the richness of the without, then real living begins. But the two must be equal. When we give more than we receive, or receive more than we give, discord follows, and herein we find the cause of many troubles and ills. The lesser without cannot receive the greater within, nor can the greater without be appropriated and appreciated by the lesser within. The small, Undeveloped mind cannot enjoy the sublime grandeur of nature, nor can the great, highly developed mind find contentment in crude, uncultivated surroundings. The without and the within must be in harmony if the highest happiness and the truest life is to be enjoyed, and this harmony is invariably secured when giving and receiving are equal. In truth, there is no other way. If we would have the real correspond with the ideal, and the capacity to enjoy be as large as the good things we have found to enjoy, we must give as much as we receive and receive as much as we give. Before we can receive those things in the without that have worth, we must bring forth worth from the within. What we bring forth from the within we always give to the world, because no person can enrich his own spiritual life without enriching the whole world thereby. Before we can receive the best of all things in the without, we must bring forth the best of all things from the within. But to desire to give to the world from the richness of our own nature is not sufficient. Many have done this and have found themselves in want, both physical and spiritual. To desire to receive is just as necessary as to desire to give. The two desires should be equally strong, and together should hourly grow in strength. The desire to receive is just as good as the desire to give, providing the two desires are equally dear to the heart. The more we receive the more we can give, and the more we give the greater our capacity to receive. Therefore, by placing ourselves in that position where we can constantly give more and constantly receive more and more, we not only add more and more to the richness and beauty and perfection of our own life, but we become a great power for good in their world. And this is our highest aim. Before we can live a great life and receive from the external world those things that naturally belong to a great life, we must give forth into real life more and more of our own inherent greatness. Before we can receive as much from the world of things as our largest personal needs and desires may demand, we must unfold, develop and use those powers and talents that are necessary to the building of greater and greater things. Be of great use in the world and you give more and more to the world. In response the world will bring your own to you. He who actively is much gives much, and he gives the most who serves the best. To serve the human race in the largest and highest sense, we must bring forth into living expression the truest, the best and the greatest that we can possibly find in the depths of our own sublime being. And to this end we need all the inspiration we can receive from nature, all the love and friendship we can receive from man, and all the wisdom and power we can receive from God. To become all that we are destined to become, we must receive the largest possible measure from every source. But we cannot receive the largest possible measure from any source unless we give all we have the power to give whenever we have the privilege to do so. And this privilege is ever present. Whatever our field of action may be, we may give the very best that there is within us. And we will not do so in vain. Live a great life where you are. Hide nothing that has worth. Use every talent in full measure. Bring forth into life and usefulness the highest powers that you know you possess, and you will enter into a greater and greater life until you finally reach the supreme heights of exalted spiritual attainments. Awaken everything within you that can, in any manner, enrich, beautify and perfect the whole of life. Do not limit the giving of your greatest self to any one partner, any one group of parts. Live for the universe and all that the vastness of the cosmos may contain. The more we all give to the whole of life, the more we all shall receive from the whole of life. We therefore have everything to gain by giving more and more everywhere, and by receiving more and more from every source in order that they may give again in still greater measure. And herein we find the secret to that beautiful life that God has prepared for them that love Him. Be not anxious for your life. Live your life according to the very highest light that is within you. Use fully and well all the potters that you have received. Give your best to the world at all times and under every circumstance, and depend upon the infinite for everything that existence may need or desire. You will receive it. You need not be anxious about anything. God is greater than anything that can possibly happen. Have faith in Him and He will see you safely through. Things go wrong only when you fail to be your best and fail to take God with you in everything you do. It is therefore in your power to place yourself in that position where everything will go right. The lilies of the field are all that beautiful lilies can possibly be, and they depend wholly upon the powers divine that are within them. Accordingly, they are an inspiration to all the world. Chapter 8. And all things shall be added. But seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. The kingdom of God is within, and manifests through man as the spiritual life. His righteousness is the right use of all that is contained in the elements of the spiritual life. The spiritual life being a complete life, the full expression of life in body, mind and soul. It is evident that the right use of the spiritual life will produce, and bring everything that man may need or desire. The source of everything has the power to produce everything, providing the power within that source is used according to exact spiritual law. The spiritual life being the source of all that is necessary to a full and perfect life, and the kingdom of God within being the source of the spiritual life, we can readily understand why the kingdom should be sought first, and also, why everything that we may require will be added when the first thought is given to spiritual living and righteous action. Righteous action, however, is not simply moral action, but the right use of the elements of life in all action. To seek his kingdom first, it is not necessary to withdraw from the world, nor to deny oneself the good things that exist in the world. To seek the kingdom first, is to give one's strongest thought to the spiritual life, and to make spiritual thought the predominating thought in everything that one may do in life. In other words, go to God first for everything, place your greatest dependence upon His power to carry you through everything, and live so close to His kingdom within that you are fully conscious of that kingdom every moment. To seek the kingdom first, the heart must be in the spirit. That is, to live the spiritual life must be the predominating desire. But the mental conception of the spiritual life must not be narrow. In brief, that conception must contain the perfection of everything that can possibly appear in life. To think of the spiritual life as being distinct from mind and body is to deter the spiritual life from being expressed in mind and body. But what is not expressed is not lived. To think about the spiritual, or to feel the emotional power of the spiritual is not sufficient. But that is as far as the spiritual life has been taken by the average person. That the other things were not added is therefore no fault of the law. The spiritual life must be thoroughly lived in mind and body. The power of the Spirit must be made the soul of all power, and the law of spiritual action must be made the rule and guide in all action. When the spiritual is lived in all life, the richness, the quality and the worth of the spiritual will be produced in all life, and spiritual worth is the sum total of all worth. To enter the kingdom within is to enter health, harmony and happiness, because these three great principles reign supremely in the spiritual life of man. Therefore, by seeking the kingdom, health will be added, harmony will be added, happiness will be added. It is impossible to be sick in the spiritual life, and discord and unhappiness can no more exist in such a life than darkness can exist in the most brilliant light. But to seek the kingdom is not sufficient. We must also seek His righteousness. If we misuse any organ, faculty, function or power anywhere in body, mind or soul. We cannot remain in health no matter how spiritual we may try to be. To seek His righteousness, is to use everything in our world as God uses everything in His world. Which means, in harmony with its own nature, in harmony with its sphere of action and in harmony with the law that tends upward and onward forever. Righteous action is that action that is always harmonious, and that always works for better things, greater things, higher things. To enter the kingdom within, is to enter more power, because there is no limit to the power of the Spirit. And the more power we enter into or become conscious of, the more power we will give to mind and body. In consequence, the more spiritual we become, the stronger we become, the more able we become, the more competent we become, and the more we can accomplish whatever our work may be. And he who can do good work in the world invariably receives the good things in the world. To his life will be added all those things that can make personal existence rich and beautiful. To enter the kingdom is to enter the life of freedom. There is no bondage in the Spirit, and as we grow in the Spirit we grow out of all bondage. One adverse condition after another disappears until absolute freedom is gained. All bondage comes from incompleteness in living, and misuse of life in doing. But the spiritual life is full and complete, and it follows the law of righteous action in all doing. Therefore, when we seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, perfect freedom in all things and at all times will invariably be added. When we seek first the kingdom, all other things are not added in some mysterious manner, nor do they come of themselves regardless of our conscious effort to work in harmony with the law of life. That is, the law of being and doing all that lies within the power of life. We receive from the kingdom only what we are prepared to use in the living of a great life, and in the doing of great and noble things in the world. We receive only in proportion to what we give. And it is only as we work well that we produce results. But by entering the spiritual life we receive as much as we may require in order to give as much as we desire. And we gain the power to do everything that is necessary to give worth and superiority to our present state of existence. When we enter the spiritual life we gain every quality that is required in making life full and complete in our own state of being, and we gain the power to produce and create in the external world whatever we may need or desire. In other words, we receive everything we want from the within, and we gain the power to produce everything we want in the without. We therefore need never take anxious thought about these other things. By seeking first His kingdom and His righteousness, we shall positively receive them. The way will be opened, and we shall be abundantly supplied with the best that life can give. Depend upon me. I will provide. This is the word, eternally spoken from on high. And every awakened soul has learned the message, but the few alone have discerned its real interpretation. God is rich, and nothing is too good for the children of God. The Spirit of the Infinite will provide, not bare necessities, but everything. Ask what thou wilt and I will answer thee. It is the will of God that we should seek everything that is good, worthy and beautiful. The life of man should be full and complete. Human existence should be rich in body, mind and soul, for this is the great divine purpose. To think that we must live on bare necessities in order to be spiritual, is to limit our faith in the goodness and the power of God. The kingdom of God is at hand now. We are expected to enter now, and this kingdom is abundantly supplied with everything that can enrich, perfect and beautify human life. Seek ye first the kingdom, and all other things shall be added. Not simply enough to live on, but all things. The love of God is infinite, and we cannot think of infinite love as wanting to give less than all. God has the power to give all. He also has the desire to give all, and therefore every soul may, at any time, receive all that present development can take possession of. The more we ask of God, the more we please God. To give is the highest pleasure of true love, and God is true love. To ask Him for everything, the most of everything and the best of everything is to enter into the life of the highest joy of heaven. And to live in such a life is to live indeed. When we do not have what we want or what we need, we should remember that Spirit can provide, and that Spirit will provide if we only so desire. Depend upon me. I will not forsake thee nor leave thee. I am thy Redeemer, I will care for thee. Take God at His word. Have faith in the message that comes from on high. Believe with all the power of mind and soul that God will do what love will do, because God is love. Open the heart to the influx of infinite love, and all that God can give will come with His love. Do not hesitate to ask God for material things. God owns the universe. Everything is the product of His creative power. Therefore it is all good, and what is good for man. What you can use to promote the welfare of everybody, including yourself, you may receive. Only remember this, that things spiritual must come first in your thought. You may have abundances of things material. There is more than enough to provide everybody with all the luxuries of life. You will not deprive anybody of anything by accepting from God all that His love can give. Others may receive as much from the same source. But seek first the things of the Spirit, for this is the law. Consider the lilies of the field. Why should not you be arrayed like one of these? It is the will of God that you should be, and you will give Him great pleasure by asking Him to clothe you even more gorgeously than they. But we must remember that we are not to take these things from others. We are to receive them from God. There is a great difference between the two methods, and there are few in the world that can see it. To receive from God we must love the spiritual the best, though we must neither despise nor ignore the material. All is from God, and all will minister to the joy and beauty of life when used in harmony with a life that is lived in God. When we live in God, all things will be turned to good account, and when we work with God, all things will work together for greater good. The world tries to get from man. The perfect way is to receive from God. And the moment we adopt the latter method, the way will be opened. Spirit will lead. We will know at each step what we are to do, and what step to take next will always be clear. Live close to God and have faith. No matter what may come or not, depend upon the Spirit to lead and provide, and you will always do what is best. However, we must never think that it is best for anyone to live in poverty, trouble and pain. No, this is never best, not even for a moment. The Infinite can provide something better here and now. And it is His will and good pleasure to do so. When days of darkness are at hand, cling to the great truth, Spirit will provide. Think of it constantly. Live in the very soul of its presence. Believe in it from the very depths of the heart. Things will take a turn. The door of opportunity will open. The desired change will come. There is nothing in the world that the Spirit cannot change for the better. Therefore we may with perfect faith ask for any change desired. The best is intended for all of us. God is ever ready to give everything. Ask what thou wilt and I will answer thee. To think of thee and feel thy presence near. To rise above the world of doubt and fear. To enter where the many mansions be. To hold communion face to face with thee. To find the secret place where all is still, to feel thy joy and life my being thrill. To know that health and wholeness now are mine, to see thy light within forever shine. To feel the peace that passeth thought and speech. To know that I the endless heights shall reach. That I thy son forevermore shall be. These are the sweetest thoughts of life to me. This is the end of chapter 8.